30 Minutes with Ron. Hello, and welcome to another edition of 30 Minutes with Ron. I'm Ron, and tonight we have two guests. One of them is human, and one of them is metal. It's going to be a little departure from what we normally do, because the metal item is going to be doing some talking with the help of the human person. And the human person is right over here. This is Bob Gomez. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ron.
Bob is a resident of Cheshire, lives here with his family, and he has quite an interesting background. You started out with the guitar many, many moons ago.
Yeah, I started playing when I was in 7th grade in Florida, and I stuck with it my whole life, except for a bit of a break when I studied to take the professional engineer exam. And I put my way through college playing in bands, and I have been playing ever since. I'm just a nut. I was on Star Search with in the 90s, which was kind of like the American Idol of today.
Right.
And the band I was in did pretty good, and we had a pretty good thing going for a while, but after a while I decided to leave the band and become an engineer, and that's what I've been doing ever since, but I still play all the time.
And I hear that you won a national contest.
Yeah, I entered a contest for PRS guitars and submitted like a tape of myself playing, and they picked me out of a bunch of entries, and that was really cool. I got to meet some really famous guitar players and record with some really cool people. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Well, we have an instrument, or actually Bob has an instrument that he's holding right there.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't expect a guitar to look like this. It's almost like it was created in like 2210 and somebody transported it back. Yeah. So tell us about this. It's a Gittler guitar, right?
It's a Gittler guitar, and the story is that in the 70s, a man named Alan Gittler designed this as he took a guitar and thought, what can I take away from it and have it still be a guitar? And he stripped it down to its bare elements, which would be just like a metal rod that is the neck, and then the frets are metal, and then pickups in here and tuning in the back. And he invented the tuners, he invented the whole system. The whole thing weighs about 3 pounds. And at the time, it was so revolutionary that it went right into the Museum of Modern Art in New York, and right into the Museum of Art in Boston, and a few lucky people that could get it. And I think Andy Summers from the Police was the only nationally known famous guitar player to ever play it on anywhere. And then Alan moved to Israel and stopped making the guitars. So they made, I think, 60 guitars, and they stopped. And for the past 30 years, people have been saying, why hasn't this been done again? It turns out he made his out of stainless steel, but this new version that I just got a few weeks ago is made out of titanium. And it's an interesting story too, because the company that makes it is an aerospace company, and they make weapons and helicopter parts and weapon parts for the Army and the Navy. And they decided to take those same machines that make these, military equipment and make guitars out of it. And they got the rights from the Gittler's son to make these, and they went into a big venture. And thank the Lord they made it, because I wanted one for so long, and it finally came. It took a long time to get it to become real, because they took they made a lot of improvements to the guitar. And it's really a functioning, very cool instrument. And another thing that's really neat about it is, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but wood guitars are just like every other natural resource that we have. They're fading away because of the over-harvesting of the trees. Mm-hmm. Brazilian rosewood from Brazil is no longer allowed to be imported into Europe or into the United States because it was over-harvested. And the same for a lot of the spruce that they make acoustic guitars from. And it's just a matter of time before you're going to see, in fact, you're already seeing carbon fiber guitars, plastic guitars, 3D printed guitars, anything you can imagine, because they're anticipating this lack of natural resources that's coming in the future. So this guitar definitely was ahead of its time 30 years ago, and now it's even ahead. It looks ahead of its time now.
Definitely does.
But it's definitely a real guitar, and it's taken me a few weeks to really appreciate how wonderful this thing really is and how cool it is. And I've been sharing it with all my friends and talking to everybody about it because it's so different and so cool.
Definitely. Now, I am not a guitarist. I played keyboard in a rock and roll band called the East Coast Sounds, and everybody in the band was great except for me. I stunk. But when I saw this thing, I said, "That's an amazing instrument. It's an artwork as well."
Yeah, it really
now,
is.
What you did is you set up a camera on a tripod and you did a demo of it,
Yeah.
and then you put it on YouTube, and it started getting hits.
Yeah, I put it on YouTube. I put my camera on my ironing board and just recorded playing it to it, and it got 800 hits in a couple of days, and then I got. I got contacted by the folks that make it, and they said, "Hey, why don't you make us a real video, another video of it?"
They saw it on YouTube.
They saw it on YouTube, and it was really my first experience with the power of social media and stuff. But that's how things happen, people want certain products, and they use Kickstarter, or they use some kind of alternate ways to get it. And I'm happy to help them spread the word about this thing, because it really is, I think, revolutionary instrument. It's a guitar. It plays like a guitar. It sounds like a guitar, but 3 pounds and made out of metal. It doesn't have the disadvantages of a guitar. You can't leave a regular guitar in the trunk of your car, because the cold or the hot will mess it up. And every wood guitar that I have is in a slow state of decay, just from getting beat up and abused. But this thing, I'm sure, will outlive me, because it doesn't rust, it doesn't bend, it doesn't do anything. It just sits there. So I think it's going to be around for 100 or 200 years before anything happens to it. It's really cool.
No doubt. Now, just about the power of the internet and the social media. So the company saw you on YouTube, and they said, can you make us a demo? And then they liked it. And then what happened?
Well, just today I heard from him. We sent him a new video that we made a little more professionally, I would say. Maybe we spent a little more time with it, my brother and I, and we sent it to him. And today he wrote back saying that he loved it, and now they want me to help them promote the guitar some more, including go to the National Music Industry Show in California. So I've always wanted to go there, because it's like a special club where all the musicians go. They have all the new products, and I'm looking forward to that. That'll be really fun.
Take some video.
I will. That's my plan.
Maybe we'll put some on 30 Minutes with Ron someday in the future.
Yeah. When I left playing music professionally and started and worked as an engineer, it even kind of highlights my interest more in it, because as a civil engineer, we work with steel a lot and concrete, and to see an instrument made out of the materials that we work with in my design job every day is really neat. It's just really cool. And titanium is what they use for artificial joints.
Right.
And back, if you have scoliosis, the rods they put in your spine are made of the same material. So it's just a very interesting, cool instrument. It really is.
Okay,
you want to hear it a little bit?
Well, yes, we've seen it now. We'll let it talk through you.
All right, so I'm going to stand up and turn it up a little bit here. It doesn't sound like a metal guitar. It just sounds like a, regular. And it's good for a lot of different styles, clean, playing, jazzy stuff. As well as, a little more rocket. So you can do a lot with this guitar.
Yes, apparently.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It really is, because I also like guitars that aren't heavy. When I used to play in the band, I had really heavy guitars. Mm-hmm. And when you're on stage playing for 4 hours, 5 hours a night, there's something happens to your shoulder. Because most guitars weigh somewhere between 8 and 12 pounds or 13 pounds for a heavy wood guitar, mm-hmm. and anything that's under 4 pounds is like, you don't even feel it, and you can basically, play all night and not end up with a backache and sore this and sore that. and it's real easy to get used to it. The fact that it doesn't have a fretboard, which is something that you're so used to, your hands kind of have a certain muscle memory to them, and playing it, you just don't feel like you're missing anything. Once you get, once you're, you have this concept of what a guitar is in your head, and when you can turn it upside down and just say, well, what would a guitar be if it was just the strings? And that's kind of what this is. It's kind of just the strings, and then when you play it, you kind of just get the feel of it's really the most minimal, basic guitar there is, but yet it functions like every other guitar. So it shows you what a guitar could be if they stripped everything out that wasn't absolutely necessary.
But there's this thing.
Yeah, this is what they call the Gittler Guard, and it's basically for people that there's a certain style of playing where you kind of wrap your thumb around the back of the guitar. Blues players do that a lot, and it's a little hard to do that with this guitar because you have to really, you have to get used to it. But if you snap this thing into place like this, it just clicks right in, and now you have a guitar with a neck that basically feels like a regular guitar, and the advantages of the metal part. So and they have different shaped necks for different players, because some people like a fat round neck and some people like a skinny flat neck. This is the skinny flat version. And I don't even think I really need this, but I just couldn't help it. But because I was kind of afraid that I wasn't going to be able to play it without it. But it turns out that I end up playing it, some styles with it and some styles without it, and it's a lot of fun. I think to start, it's easier to play with this, but then once you get into the whole thing mentally, you don't want this anymore. You just want to play it in its raw state.
Now, the viewers may notice that there's some lights on the guitar. Originally, I thought it was a glitter guitar because I misread the Gittler.
Yeah, that's kind of the common thing. But the lights mark the fret markers, and that's a pretty cool feature too. None of my other guitars light up, which on stage is really nice, especially with this thing on, because it like lights up the whole guitar, with the lights, and it's easy. I mean, you get the hang of it pretty quick, and you don't feel too stressed out about the fact that it's missing things. The one thing that when I was playing professionally, the one thing that I was always very self-conscious of was how much guitar body was there, and the connection between the wood and the body. And actually, when you're playing guitar in a band, it's really nice to have a body that kind of hides your belly when you're playing.
Especially in the aged guitarists we have, like
it's like you just feel like you're behind something. And that's why I always envied singers, because singers would have nothing but a in front of them, and that's it. But guitar players always hid behind something. With this guitar, you're really not hiding behind anything. You're right there. It's right in your face, and you can really get used to that. Another thing that it does is you can play up higher past the normal frets, because it has extra frets beyond the 24. It goes to 31, so you can play really high. Which isn't that useful, but it's kind of cool. Sometimes it's a little flashy to play up real high.
Helps the dogs in the audience.
Yeah.
Now, we mentioned, or I think we mentioned on camera, but I'm not sure if we did. But anyway, we talked about anyone can pick this up and try it out and work it successfully.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. And I've had different people just say it. They look at it and they go, how is this possible? How can you play it? But, let's bring somebody out here that plays and let them check it out.
All right, we're going to have Dylan come out. And he's our floor manager, and now he's going to manage a 15 or 20 second episode with the Gittler guitar.
He's a rocker.
Well done.
He's a rocker, man. Cool. So it's easy to get used to it, that's for sure, and it's a lot of fun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, so let's switch from the Gittler
All right.
guitar.
I'm gonna take it off for a minute.
All right.
All right.
To something else that's quite interesting in the world of innovations,
Yeah.
called the drone.
The drones.
You are a drone pilot,
I am a drone pilot.
and you don't need a license.
You don't right now. You don't. If you're flying drones for personal use, not commercial, you're not selling the videos. You're just flying like a hobbyist. Then you don't need a license. The FAA governs drone use, and there's a lot of controversy right now about drone use because certain companies have decided that they want to deliver stuff to your house with a drone. And the skies are crowded enough without having 50,000 drones flying all over. But drones are coming. There's a wave coming, and it's just a matter of time before drones are everywhere because the technology with these drones is incredible. They have built-in GPS, so they know where they're at. They have gyros and compasses, so they know which way their direction is. They have 4 propellers, and they can hover over a spot. They lock in on a GPS target, and they can just stay there till the battery runs out. And when the battery starts to run out, they realize they're smart enough to know that they're running out of power, and they return back home and land. So, and for a little over $1,000, you can buy a very sophisticated drone that has a high-definition camera on it, and really it's all about aerial photography. And the thing that is there's many things about drones that are cool, but as a hobbyist, one of the coolest things is that the beauty of Cheshire from about 200 feet is amazing. And when you fly a drone, you got to stay under 400 feet. That's the rule. That's a good rule. Planes, I think the smaller planes have to stay above 1,000 feet or 1,500 feet. So there's an area there where there's a difference. When you fly a drone, you got to watch out for hawks.
Huh.
Yeah, because hawks don't like drones. And there's lots of
Who knew?
hawks. Yeah, there's lots of hawks in Cheshire, and they'll attack your drone, and geese and things like that. Geese stay away from it, but the hawks, they see that as a competition for them. So I've had a few encounters where hawks have gotten too close, and I've had to go running away from them. But the beauty of a drone is you take it up. I've taken it up over my neighborhood a bunch of times. I've taken it up over the trail, the walking trail, the path.
Linear Park.
The linear park. And I've got lots of footage of the high school and the field. And I brought a sample to show you guys, a clip. And you can see from this clip how just peaceful and quiet and beautiful Cheshire is once you get off the ground. I mean, Cheshire's a nice place to live when you're on the ground, but when you see it from 200 or 300 feet like the birds see it, it brought me to this new realization that it's a really beautiful place, and there's a lot of really beautiful things that we don't notice because we're always looking at things from eye level,
Right.
from human level. So that's been like the coolest thing about the drone. And and also it's been really interesting to kind of mark the seasons. In my little video, I've got basically fall. You can see all the colors of Cheshire a few months ago, and then that period where all the leaves are gone and everything's kind of gray, and then the newer shots I took a couple weeks ago this weekend actually, where it's just snow everywhere and everything's white. So it's just a really cool technology. I know it's controversial because people are afraid that they'll crash into cars or crash into things, but the FAA 2 weeks ago, I think, put out new rules. It'll be in, let's say, late February of this year. They put out new rules that are draft right now. They're under public comment. And the idea is that the public can put their 2 cents in as to what they like and don't like about it. But it's going to allow drones for commercial use to inspect bridges and to inspect cell towers. It's very dangerous to climb a cell tower and take pictures of the cell tower. And every year people die climbing these towers and antennas. And what they want to do is take the drones and just fly them up next to the cell tower, the tower, and take those pictures and inspect it with a drone. And then if there's an issue, then send somebody up.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and the cost of the potential cost of somebody getting hurt far outweighs the potential cost of the drone accidentally hitting somebody or hitting the tower. Drones are cheap. People's lives are not.
Right.
You know, so there's a long history of people using model airplanes and model helicopters, and there's insurance that you can get for that. And a lot of the model airplane and helicopter clubs make you have an extension of your homeowner's insurance that covers if there's a drone accident. There's been very few accidents with drones. A few weeks ago, there was one that landed in the White House lawn.
I heard about that. I saw that on TV.
Yeah, and that's the same model of drone that I have. And what happened to that fellow was his drone got totally confused with where it was
Oh, the
and
nerve.
flew the wrong way and malfunctioned. And you know, this thing weighs about 2 pounds or 1.5 pounds, so it's really hard for it to do any real damage to anything.
Mm-hmm.
I've probably flown it 100, 200 times, and the only time I had an issue was I took it up and a big gust of wind got it and started carrying it kind of out of it. And it knows where it is, so as soon as it knows that it's being blown away, it adjusts and comes right back to where it was. But it couldn't fly back fast enough, so the wind kept pushing it. So it basically started drifting away from me, and I immediately started running after it and just lowering the altitude so I could get out of that gust of wind,
Yep.
and I, in no time, had it back under control. The key is to keep it in your line of sight so you can always see it, and to not fly when there's a lot of people around where something could happen, and to just be mindful of the potential things that can go wrong, because they can be a little unpredictable if you've never flown them.
Well, how easy was it to pick up the technique for flying it?
So easy. I know, like flying helicopters and airplanes, everybody that flies those can tell you like how many times they've had to fix the airplane or the helicopter. There's been a million crashes. But these drones, you basically just take off, and once they get the GPS lock, they know where they're at. They're really safe. You use your phone to look at what the camera is seeing, and it knows how far off the ground it is. It knows where it is, how far away from you it is. It knows what its battery is. And like I said, if the battery starts to run out, if the connection, if your battery in your controller dies, if your phone shuts off, if anything goes wrong, it just knows to come back home and land. And it comes back really slow and just goes right down the ground and lands right where you took off, or wherever you're standing.
Now, you mentioned that you look in your phone and you can see what it's seeing.
Yeah, you look at your phone and basically can see a low-res version of what the camera sees. So that's how you can kind of point. And you can see from right from my house, if I just go straight up, I can see Sleeping Rock or Sleeping Giant really well. And I can see the Castle Rock in Meriden. You can see that. You can basically see all around Cheshire from just spinning the drone around and looking around. You know, it's amazing how beautiful Cheshire is once you get off the roads and look up.
Yeah, I've seen your videos. They're quite impressive.
I envy the birds that can just do that without any effort.
Except for the hawks.
Yeah, well, the hawks, I think, are just thinking is that the drones are competing for their territory. So the hawks like to fly above the drone and circle it so that they can swoop down and get it if they think it's a threat. So I just get out of there when I see that.
Now, you mentioned that you're an engineer. And one of the things that I found was amazingly impressive, that your company had something to do with the Quinnipiac Bridge.
Yeah, my company, VN Engineers, worked on the Quinnipiac Bridge, the design of it.
Wow.
And also all the roads around the I-91, I-95 interchange. That whole area has been under construction for years, and they're about a little more than halfway done with the Q Bridge. And the intersection I-91, I-95 is also got a couple years left. And that's interesting because I thought about flying my drone there, but you can't because it's near an airport. That's where Tweed Airport is.
Right.
And that's another very important rule about drones, is that you cannot fly them near where there's an airport for obvious reasons. So in fact, the programming in the drone won't let you take off near an airport. If you're near an airport, it's all red on the screen and you can't fly. So they've thought of everything.
It's amazing.
They've tried to make it as safe as
possible. The program
possible.
that's in them.
Yeah, and I've heard of other drones that have flown over Hartford. It's kind of a rumor, but it seems quite plausible that there was a drone that would just fly above the city and take pictures of the city every few seconds. And if there was like a robbery, let's say at a 7-Eleven, and then the drone would take a picture of that parking lot, and they'd see a car in the parking lot. And then they would see that car, if they took a picture every 3 seconds, the police could say, at 4 o'clock, the convenience store was robbed, what cars were in the parking lot. And then they could track all the cars by looking at the pictures, and within a few minutes, the drones could tell the police, this car is now parked in front of this guy's house, because they could follow it where it went home. And the police are looking at drones for crime prevention, using drones to find hikers that are lost in mountains, or people that are lost in. You find that all the time, where people go up in a camping and they get lost and they vanish. And to send 30 people looking for them is more dangerous than to send an army of drones to scour the mountain and look for them. And that's really what is going to happen with them, is they're going to become very useful for those type of civilian purposes and police purposes that aren't. Think about it. If there's a fire and you have a drone that can come straight to your house at 60 miles an hour, it can get there before the fire trucks do, and then the fire chief will know how bad the situation is and know who else to call to the fire, how bad it is, what to do. There's also a company I think in England that's has a flying defibrillator.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that.
Yeah, that if you're having a heart attack and there's no defibrillator nearby, they send the drone out, lands in front of you, you bring the drone over and give the guy a shock. And so I mean, it's all in its infancy, but
I have to cut you off there because we have managed to use up 30 minutes on 30 Minutes with Ron.
Excellent.
So thanks for being with us, and thanks for viewing with us. Bye-bye.